Welcome to the Food Dad Podcast with Pete and Bryan. Podcast with Pete and Bryan. Podcast with Pete and Bryan. Podcast with. Welcome to the Food Dad Podcast with Pete and Bryan. Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Food Dad Podcast. I am Bryan.
And I am Pete. And this week's guests are each other.
Interview time.
Exactly. I think, I spoke to you, Bryan, earlier about, we've had a bunch of our friends come on the show, and we've had some really great conversations.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from them. But in that process, something that occurred to me is that, I really wanted to build this podcast to be a space and a resource for, I think initially, of course you always say you have these altruistic intentions, that I wanted it to be, a forum for other dads or other men who might be, having their struggles. But I think as it's evolved, I realized that it's probably a little more self-serving, and it became a place where I felt like I wanted to learn more about, fatherhood and about how to be a better father, as well as a place for potentially me to find my own safe place and a place where I could sort of discuss things. But I think in that process, I realized that I wasn't really walking my, my talk. And I realized that on some level it's a little hypocritical. Like I'm saying, oh yeah, we have these fathers coming on, they're discussing their lives. Some of the conversations are, are pretty revealing, and and they're showing a lot of vulnerability. But at the same time, and I think I've showed some vulnerability as well on some of the episodes. But I realized that I was also like holding in a lot of my own issues and my own sadness, my own depression. And one of the reasons I started this was, it came about from two dad friends that I knew that had ultimately committed suicide. And I realized that, I wanted to learn more about that, and also hopefully create a place where men can discuss what they're feeling. But in hindsight, I realized that I wasn't really doing that. And I was, we were talking about things on the podcast. We were talking about other dads. And I think I kind of alluded to a few things that were going on, like I was not in the best, state, or I'm just kind of struggling with a few things. But I don't think I was as honest about how deep and how dark, things had gotten for me. I've mentioned before, like, I'm currently doing therapy. And I told my therapist about the podcast. She's such an amazing woman, and I'm so grateful. I think she's been made such a huge impact in my life. She's very insightful and such an amazing resource. She kind of called me out a little bit and said, you have this podcast about men talking, but you're not really talking about, the things that you're struggling with. And I realized, oh yeah, she's right. Like I'm kind of being I'm kind of full of shit a little bit.
Yeah.
So, that's when I think I gave, was really struggling, and I think I reached out to you, and I kind of called you on the side, and I kind of told you what I was going through, and I was in a dark place. I think it was like the perfect storm of
emotions
and just of things happening in my life. I was kind of going through a breakup with my girlfriend, and I was, Hunter had kind of, brought up some things about, my lack of family or lack of social circle and who we interact with. And, it's something that really, not really in my control on some level. And that really hit me hard. And also, I was also unpacking a lot of things about, the abuse that I've endured, as a child. And so it was like, and I felt like I was very raw and very exposed, and and those, or the combination of those things really kind of fucked me up. And I remember I told you that I didn't know if I had the strength to keep moving forward, and I'm sure for you it was kind of probably a little unsettling, a little alarming, but
absolutely.
But I think I wanted to talk about it because I realized that when I found out that these fathers that I knew had committed suicide, I always wondered, how does someone get to that point? You have children, you have your family, you have how do you? I couldn't fathom how they got to a point where they felt so hopeless or so, or in such a dark place that they didn't see any other options.
Yeah.
And I realized during those, like, this one weekend specifically, where I thought to myself, like, I really had some dark thoughts about harming myself, about idolations of suicide.
Yeah.
And, you know, for me, even for me to say that out loud is like a lot, you know? And I realized afterwards, you know, now that I was able to make it through, you know, with your help and like your support, and also, you know, your wife Evelyn, that I never realized how easy or how quickly you can get to that point where you feel like that might be the only option out, or things become so unbearable that you start considering it.
Yeah.
It becomes something that's like, before it was something that I couldn't even fathom on how, you know, like someone can do that, and now those are the thoughts that I'm having.
Yes, yeah. I personally don't know someone who has committed suicide, but I do know Evelyn does have a friend, and she remembers sort of vividly, I think, when they found them. And it's like, you know, it's a pretty dark thing, and I think there's times that we're watching media or we're talking to each other, and it's something brings it up. She's like, oh, I remember when this guy, you know, passed away. And I always think, I was like, yeah, that is like super, like, how do you get to that point? But I think if you're also sort of like surrounded, I don't want to say surrounded by folks, but if you're always in a state where you're never able to get that low, you'll never see it. But when you do, then you realize, oh, to a certain point, I can understand what drove this person. Now, everyone's, you know, going through their own things. But I think I've had thoughts where I don't think I had gone that far, but I knew that if I continued further, it felt like a sort of dark path. It was like I can only see the first few steps ahead of me and nothing further. And I was like, you know, this is really bad. You know, I have to go back. I have to do some therapy. I have to talk about it and sort of like, you know, get out of this mental state. But it's difficult. It's not easy at all. You know, if you tend to seclude yourself from people when you're having those emotions, it's very easy to get trapped in it. If you have good people around you, you know, it sort of helps, but you know, it's something that ultimately you have to battle. And it's, you know, people can help you, but you know, it's like a demon that you yourself have to fight. Yeah.
I do think that it's hard. I feel like part of the reason I hid it or I internalized it was because on some level you feel a little embarrassed.
Yeah.
And you feel like ashamed. You also feel like, you know, as fathers, we understand, and as men, we understand that, you know, we have a lot of responsibilities. We have careers, our families that we have to support, that we have to, you know, our jobs that we have to do, you know, do at a high level to. Yeah. And it became like I mean, I think ultimately for me, let's say how I felt is I didn't want to burden someone else with my own, you know, the struggles that I was having, just because on some level you realize other people have their own struggles.
Yeah.
And it's, you know, not only is it sort of embarrassing, or for me it's like you feel a little embarrassed about it, to like, you know, you feel like the need to always maintain, like I said, you're representative.
Yes.
It's like I realized even before before we started recording, going live, I needed a few minutes to kind of transition from being my representative, the way I navigate through the world, and the person I want people to, how I, you know, want to represent myself, and and the person I want people to see, as opposed to the person I really am. And sometimes those don't match up, you know, like I think there's some people say, oh yeah, I'm who I am. And for the most part I am pretty true to myself, but there are parts that we all kind of hide from the outside world.
Right. Yeah.
Because maybe it could be out of fear, out of, you know, not wanting to look weak. And I think, to be honest, I think that going through that, you have to really do it yourself. But I think it's easier when because I don't know if I would have been able to navigate through it if I hadn't reached out to you. Because the feeling of isolation, I think adds another level of sadness, and adds another level of another challenge where you feel like, I think I mentioned to you, I had, like, you know, I had an incident. I don't want to really delve into it too deep, but, you know, with my son, and he kind of, like, you know, had mentioned some things about how we don't really see too many people, or we don't really have too much family. Yeah. And, you know, on some level, I felt like he was choosing my wife's family and that option because he couldn't really get that from me, like, because my lack of family. Yeah, yeah. Or at least lack of immediate family here, like, you know, that we can see regularly. Yeah. And I think at that point, it's like, you know, the feeling of isolation and feeling alone became so overwhelming, where you sort of feel like I'm alone in the world.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I know that if I hadn't reached out to you and we hadn't spoken a little bit, that I don't know if I would be able to just kind of gone through it completely by myself.
I remember the conversation, and I think when you had called, I was on my way to my uncle's son's or daughter's party, and while we were having the conversation, I went from being in the car to looking for parking, and I'm kind of telling you what's going on. So I'm like, all right, I'm concentrated, of course, on not trying to hit another car or whatever, but also focus on your conversation. Even like I got out the car, I walked all the way to the house, and we were still talking, and I was like, I think they were expecting me to be in the house and everything, and they knew I was looking for parking, but I was like, this conversation is more important than a sort of party that's temporary, and we'll remember it, and they'll take pictures, and I was like, I'll stay online I'll stay on the phone with you because I knew it felt important. I knew you were in a super vulnerable state, and I was like, sometimes I just need to listen. I don't always need to provide advice, and that differs with the conversation. But I definitely felt that, and it was concerning, and I thought about it for a while after, and I was like, all right, I need to make sure to do what I can to help people. I thought about it after, and I was like, I think I talked to you a few days after, and you were like sort of better. I think it felt sort of like maybe your voice was heard, and that's what you needed at the moment. But I think that plays an important role, even in sort of like the way I vent or talk to people, because I don't think I get that enough myself. Where it's like I feel like I tend to isolate. I personally I like being alone sometimes. I like my little alone time, and I think there's moments where I could be, what's the word? Extroverted, yeah. And then there's I'm more introverted than extroverted, and I have those moments, but I tend to love to be introvert. I just kind of like to myself, but I have this like you're someone I can almost tell anything I want to, and there are very few friends like that. But sometimes you keep to yourself, and you're sort of like, I don't know. Sometimes I push myself into this state until you talk to me or you call me, and we're talking about something, shooting the shit. Yeah, sometimes it's a difficult state to be in.
It is. And, just, I want to say thank you for that. I think, really grateful. Because I do remember afterwards, like, you called me, like, the following day, and Evelyn shot me a text here and there, because I'm assuming, I'm sure, whether, I'm not sure she's in the car, but I'm sure you relayed, the conversation to her.
Yeah.
Which, of course, I something to be expected.
Yeah.
But I think you guys sort of checked up on me, and it meant something. It kind of it made me feel like, okay, like I'm not alone in the world. There's people who, on some level, are concerned for me and care about me, and it made a difference. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Of course, man.
Of course. Thank everyone as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a hard time. I don't think I felt that dark ever. Even thinking back to it, it becomes like a little scary to me. I'm like, holy shit, how the fuck did I get to such a dark place?
Yeah.
Because I never really felt like that. And I've, can't remember at this moment how much I've shared, during our podcast, because, sometimes the conversations just happen and you're just talking and things just sort of come out. But I've, I think as a person, I've probably endured a decent amount of trauma. I mean, I think I was, some of the things I thought about talking about today are things that I haven't really spoken about, even like things that have just recently come up. But I mean, I'm a survivor of child abuse, sexual abuse, was something I've never really said before out loud. I mean, besides to a few people, it definitely has colored and affected the way me as an adult. And I think dealing with those things, unpacking those things, and dealing with the conversations I have with my son, and also my this breakup from someone I really I love a lot. On the flip side, we're trying to work things out, so that's a positive,
right?
But still, at that moment, it was like those things really kind of left me in a state where I was kind of fucked up in the head, and it was a lot to deal with in this short period of time.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there, and it's difficult to get all that. And I know you get into this situation where it's like just nothing is working for you, and that's what drives you deeper and deeper and deeper into depression, sadness, loneliness.
Yeah,
it is super tough. I'm glad that I have a support system of friends like you, Pete. My wife, my kids, and my family to help me out of that. Because, it's like you said before, it's like, you deal with it and stuff like that, but you definitely need some helping hands. Yeah,
I think it's important. I think, and to be honest, I don't think if you and I would have, I don't know, honestly, I don't want to sound so morbid or ominous.
Yeah.
But I don't know where I would have been, or if I still would have been here, if not for the conversation that we had. And that's the God honest truth. Yeah. Because I was in a place where if I didn't reach out to someone or try to do something to extend my hand, someone to kind of just, and not say pull me up, but just, just give me a little support, or just, kind of a little yank, a little. I don't know if I would have been able to. I felt like it was like quicksand. And I realized I didn't even mention all the health shit I was dealing with, like, my back, my knee, and when I fucking fell, all the other bullshit I was going through.
Yeah.
Like the issues with my, my stomach, whatever. All my, the health issues I was experiencing was just another, like,
thing to compound all of that.
Exactly.
Oh man.
So it's challenging. I think and I think that's why, when I spoke to you about specifically this episode and me kind of like, I kind of made a joke of it. Like, I'm going to hijack the episode.
Yeah.
But I think it was important for me to share because I realized that, and the one thing that I realized from these conversations, or not the one thing, but one of the things I realized from these conversations that we've had with other guests are our stories are not unique. We have a lot of shared experiences.
Yeah.
But sometimes because you feel like you're the only one going through it, or you don't know if someone else is dealing with it, it feels even more isolating, and you feel even more alone. You're like, about all the struggles you're dealing with, and you start realizing that you're
not the only one going through
you're not
this
the only
stuff.
one. Yeah. And that's why a big reason why I wanted to share and discuss it, because I feel like I heard this thing and I realized I've survived a lot of things. I survived like a lot of abuse, a lot of things in my life, foster care, a bunch of things. I also realized that surviving isn't living.
Yes, yeah.
And I want to thrive. I don't just want to survive.
Yeah.
And I think I've been in that survival mode for so long that now I'm trying to figure out how to thrive.
Would you consider it, yes, thriving? You know what I was thinking? The other word I was thinking was you survived, but did you deal with it? Trying to think of like the trauma people go through. Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, no, I've gone through that, but did you end up dealing with it? And I think, if people unpack it or deal with it and I guess dealing with it could mean a bunch of different things, and maybe for myself, dealing with it is sort of like unpacking it. Did you ever discuss this? Did you ever did you talk to someone about this to see how how you felt? And maybe that's sort of the thing that I need to do more often with my own life, where it's like, just talk to someone, even for just someone to hear me, I think would benefit me.
Yeah. And I think that's an important part, where someone feels seen and acknowledged. Yeah. And also, you said heard. I think it's a very important, critical component of, unfortunately, with your own well-being.
Yeah.
I was like, and how you feel and how you navigate through the world. I think if you feel unheard or unseen, it's very isolating.
It is, yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think a lot of it is not even because a lot of times you're not looking for the answer, because there is no real answer.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just looking for someone to listen to you.
Sometimes I feel like it's like words scrambled in your head, and the moment you let it out, you're like, you can sort of make sense of it. Mm-hmm. And I've had, I think, several times where I'm talking to someone and I'm like, okay, you know what? I feel much better. I feel like and I'll provide that for someone as well. And I think at the end of a conversation like that, where I'm sort of venting, I realize I'm like, okay, so I have this under control. Mm-hmm. Or, you know what? Maybe I don't need to do this. Maybe I don't need to do that. But this situation is okay.
Yeah. Well, I think I also saw this thing. Or maybe I don't know. I saw it somewhere. I feel like you have so many inputs from so many different, places. But it said that most people, even at their lowest, all they really need is about 8 minutes of time.
Interesting.
And on average, someone is going through some kind of crisis or some kind of thing. To help them, all they really need is approximately about 8 minutes of just a conversation and someone to listen to them.
Oh, that's interesting.
And when you really think about it, it's not that much, because I remember the conversation we had that day. I don't remember, to be honest, I don't even remember how long it was. I don't know if it was 20 minutes, half an hour. I feel like we were just talking, and maybe you have a better idea, because I think it was like
almost an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh wow.
I think so. Okay. Yeah. Because when I had a discussion with Evan, I was like, yo, we were on the phone, and I looked at the log. I remember it was a little over an hour. Mm-hmm. But that's interesting. 8 minutes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But it's like 8 minutes it seems also very low, right? Mm-hmm. Just like a short amount of time, but it's also like, who is hearing you?
Yeah.
It's very important. So even though 8 minutes is 8 minutes is just a fraction of a day. It's like, do you have someone to share those 8 minutes with?
Yeah, and to like listen. I feel like I've had conversations with people, like friends I've had, in the past, and I'm like, hey, and you'll tell them, hey, I'm going through this, and all of a sudden it's like, and you just want them to hear what you're saying, but their response is something to the effect like, oh my God, you're not going to believe, yeah, well, for me, and then the conversation twists and becomes about them and then venting about, like, and maybe it's their way to connect with you or to, share, I guess maybe let you know it's a shared experience or or they can understand, but it just comes off as then like you sort of, the thing that's bothering you, you have to put away, and now you have to then listen to them.
Yeah, now you have to flip the role.
And become like and allow them to vent, which I understand. There's times where, you need to, depends on the situation. But I think an important part, and I think something that I'm going to be more mindful of, if a conversation I have with you or really anybody, is listen to what they're saying, and I don't have to kind of respond with what's happening to me or how this
or some
affects.
advice or
exactly. It's just listening.
What I try to do is ask questions, not to sort of maybe elaborate on the situation, which I think may help someone with with the way they're thinking. But that's what I've done in the past. Now, I probably could do it more often, but I think it's also something I may need to do myself, where I'm like, I need to talk to someone, have you seen, not to segue, but have you seen like, or read anything about like people using AI for therapy and how it's been like sort of beneficial to them?
I haven't. Have you?
There's been a lot of things with like, ChatGPT and Gemini and people using those AI things. And of course you have to sort of prompt it in a way where it's not going to be sort of biased towards you and sort of give you like, no, you're good, and give you like everything positive, but be sort of realistic. But I've heard some pretty positive stuff on like online and Reddit about people using AI for therapy. I still think it's I don't know, maybe it's too early for that, and I think it always helps to be able to speak to someone. But if personally, if that's what you have right now and you can use it and it helps you, use it. Does it take advantage of it?
I think that may also be I don't know if it's a generational thing, but a mindset. I feel like if you're a little older, for me, it's hard to reconcile any kind of emotional investment in like an AI. Or any kind of like trust. But who knows? I mean, who knows in 10 years, 15 years when our children are adults, if they'll be more accepting of this AI as their therapist or their a place where they go for advice or whatever. I mean, it almost becomes like a friend. Whereas for me, I'm like, I'll use it to help me generate emails at work or draft or kind of rewrite any emails or reports that I'm doing and help me fix my grammar but it's not, there's no emotional connection to it.
No, it's interesting reading the things, and people are like, well, it's sort of like it's catering towards you and this and I guess I haven't used it for that. I'd be curious to see how you can get it set up in a way where it can maybe even act as a screener for a therapist, or act as or just give you some like basic stuff, but not like full dive on emotional.
That's funny.
But I think I feel like we'll see how that I mean, AI is evolving at such a rapid rate. We'll see how that evolves, just for like therapy alone in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it's a whole new world. I mean, I don't know. I feel like my time here is I can't say almost done, but it's not.
No, God no.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'll be 50 in July. I think I had this conversation with someone else. I'm like, I have like what 25, 30 years. It's like maybe maybe more.
Yeah,
but I'm saying average.
Yeah, average.
25, 30 years. I'm like, I want to. I don't have the luxury of time. I don't have the luxury and things that the way the world's going to evolve is going to evolve without me.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah.
But also, I wanted to mention to you is like something that you had mentioned that, or you had said it before, that I realized that you said sometimes you wait too long, or you don't really talk about, you wait until a certain point, or I think that's probably common amongst a lot of men.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe women might have experienced the same thing, but my perception, and it could be wrong, are that women are more open to talking to their friends about their struggles or what they're going through.
I think it feels more inviting. I think between women, between men, it's unless you have a really good and like deep and personal conversation with someone, it tends to you tend to not have someone for that, and I mean, culturally in society, it's like I'm not surprised by that, but I know that, but like I think what's important is sort of realizing. Sort of that state and seeing what I can do to help with that. You know?
I think from our upbringing, I think I said it before. I'll say it a million times. That I said it on the podcast. I said it off the podcast. That growing up, the only acceptable emotion you could show. I mean, besides when you're a small child, if you're sad, but once you reach a certain age, when you're 11, 12, 13, in those formative years, is the only thing that you can really express and is sort of acceptable is aggression or anger. If you're sadness, they're like, oh, or if something's bothering you, or if you're crying, it's like, it's kind of like frowned upon. And people will say, boys don't cry, like you said, man up, this or that. So I think that's I'm hoping that this generation changes, but I don't know if it will. I think there's times I see some change, but I see things go sort of back and forth. I just know that I'm trying to make it okay for my son to be sad or be upset or cry or whatever. And not shame him or not diminish him for showing those emotions.
I think that's sort of like my priority. As much as I may want to help other people, I need to make sure that that's acceptable, first to myself, but also like to my own kid, to Zach. I'm like, you could cry, you can get emotional, you can get all of these feelings, you can have them. They're yours, and you can express them freely. And to be honest, some people are not gonna like it, or some people will understand and will bond with you because of it. Fortunately, that's the way the world is, but I know that it's super important for myself and for him to have that connection. We was it yesterday or maybe 2 days ago, we watched a Goofy movie because I wanted to introduce him to. I was like, this is such a good like dad and son movie, and I'm like, oh my god, but I'm also thinking about all the scenes where he's like, I don't want to spend time with you, Dad. All this the teenager stuff, the teenager crap that kids go through. But it was such like heartwarming movie, and I remember just having a few tears at the end when they get together and all that, and like they're having that bonding, and I'm looking at Zachary, and I think he was like sort of in that emotional moment as well. But I was like, I was like, you should be the one doing that. But that's also like a mindset where it's like, oh, I shouldn't be crying. But I'm like, I know of, constantly I watch some sort of like, media with him, and it's like, just like tears be holding back. I feel it's like a bottle, and you just gotta like, how you twist it so that not all the seltzer water comes out or Pepsi comes out, whatever. It's like that. It's like just waiting to come out. But I express it freely with him, and I think I could probably do it more. And that's something, that's I feel like I'm always going to be working on. But he knows. I'm like, you can cry, you can sometimes you scream, whatever. You go through your emotions. But it's okay. It's perfectly fine.
I think for me, I try to teach Hunter that as well. I also tried to teach him that. I mean, I'm trying. I don't know how effective it is. That there's certain, and this is maybe this is wrong. Maybe it's a little hypocritical, but in the world there are expectations that are men that men have. And you have to be okay to cry. It's okay to cry. You shouldn't be ashamed. On the same respect, you also have to like handle your business, and things are going to be hard, and the world's not going to give you anything, and sometimes there's going to be tears.
Yeah.
But you have to, like, you know, you can have those tears, but you have to fight through and not let that stop you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's, like, you know, for me, the balance. It's, you know, like, I think I've also told you the same saying is, like, you know, I want him to be, you know, a warrior in the garden than a gardener in the war.
Ah, yes. Yeah. I
It's
do
like that
remember that.
Miyamada Musashi
Yeah.
quote. But that also comes with, you know, it's not a full, we're always in our emotions, you know, and we let it dictate our lives. No, we have to learn how to regulate. And that's something actually I think I'm realizing now is, like, I have to learn how to regulate my emotions because I feel like I've bottled them up for so long.
Yeah.
That when sadness comes out or when anger comes out, it's like, you know, it comes out strong.
Yes. Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard. It's like you said, it's like that bottle that sometimes you open, but sometimes it comes out too strong, and you have to, like, and then you have to, like,
twist it up or close it again.
Mm-hmm. But as opposed to letting it come out slowly and in a tempered, in a more accurate way, or more,
Yeah.
like, you know, because sometimes certain situations don't call for that level of whatever it is.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah.
But because, you know, for me, I realized that it's something I'm trying to work on now is emotional regulation.
Yeah.
And that goes both ways, whether it's, like, you know, sadness, anger.
Yeah.
And even, like, you know, the ups when you're super happy, it's like almost like you're mad. Like, you feel so happy.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, but
you moderate that.
yeah.
Yeah, it's tough to moderate it if you have it bottled in all the time, because it's like you said, it's like there's situations that don't call for all that emotion, and I found myself doing that where it's like, you know, I'll get upset about something, and by the time I finish, you know, ranting or screaming or whatever, I realize that it wasn't just about that situation. It was everything behind it.
Exactly.
And I'm like, I'm pouring it out unnecessarily. And then, you know, it's either to Evelyn or to Zach. And then, of course, you know, I find myself apologizing after that, which is still the right move, you know, to sort of correct yourself. But yeah, you got to let it out. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you said it's all the stuff that's not even the one situation. Like, you know, Hunter, you know, like my son will spill something.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and you're so annoyed. And then, you know, of course you get so angry. And then you realize, she just spilled some, you know, juice or whatever it is. You know, he spilled his drink. And you realize it's like the frustration you had from all the other shit you're dealing with, all the other shit you bottle up. And this one thing triggers you. And now you're like screaming, like, you know, what the hell? Come on, clean it up.
Yeah. I've gone through that a lot. That's sort of, I remember somebody had told me, or maybe I read somewhere where it was like, you know, if, you know, your kid spills a cup of juice or whatever on the floor, you know, you get upset. But it's like, would you speak to an adult the same way? I feel like, oh yeah, I probably wouldn't. I'm like, yeah, just clean up this paper towel there. And I think I have to mind myself when something like that happens, because I'm reacting very quickly and I'm not emotionally checking myself.
And I think part of that, because I've also thought of the same thing, and I wondered why my reaction is like that. And I realized that I know that I put certain expectations on my son, and at times it can be.
Yeah.
I'm realizing now I'm trying to recalibrate and be more mindful of it, but sometimes the expectations are unrealistic.
Yeah.
And I realize part of, you know, my journey, and, you know, I say my journey. I feel like some fucking
mantra.
Like, some, like, I feel like that word is so co-opted. It's so fucking corny. But, you know, like on my, you know, like journey in therapy, I realized that I know there are times that I put expectations on people, and it leads to a lot of conflict. It leads to anger. It leads to disappointment.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to just accept people for who they are, and accept things and temper my expectations. I think it's good to always have expectations of people. I mean, you can't just go around not expecting anything. I mean, I think for my son at least, there's certain things he has to be responsible for.
Yeah.
There's certain things he has to do, because I'm trying to teach him how to be a man. But I have to be very mindful of what those expectations are, and if they're realistic for the person he is right now, for his age, for his, you know, personality, for his mentality, for any other, his neurodivergence. You know, what are those expectations? And I have to be honest about them. And they have to be accurate and realistic and attainable. if they're unrealistic expectations, and on some level, realize he's always going to feel disappointed in himself.
Yeah, that's true. I forget sometimes that my own kid is 10 years old, and I think sometimes I do expect a lot of things. I'm like, don't, I don't know, like doing your own hair and washing your own clothes and stuff like that. I'm like, I have to, I still have to do all these things. I think it's important that you teach them, right? But I think it takes a really long time for them to get to a point of that independence, And I'm still realizing that with all the things that I expect Zachary to do. Even like, what was I doing the other day? Was it yesterday? That he woke up. We really didn't have any breakfast in the house, so he ate some rice that was probably outside for like a week. Some like Chinese food, like order that we did, and and I was like, Zach, wake me up if you're hungry, wake me up, because I
was in the fridge.
It wasn't in the fridge. It was just like on a counter. I guess we had left it there. I have no idea. But it's like one of those little plastic things, and he's in the rice. He's in a bowl swirling the rice, and it's like almost like a solid ball of rice, like mad hard. And then he's like, I also tried to warm it up in the rice cooker, and I was like,
he's out here.
And I was like, oh my god! I was like, you're gonna blow up this house. So I was like, no, the rice cooker's for rice that's uncooked. You gotta actually cook the rice, not for heating it up again. You're not sautéing it. But I was like, he's not gonna make his breakfast. He's used to me making his breakfast, and I've showed him how to make, I think, cereal. Like pour your cereal in a bowl, put some milk in it. But even simple things like that, he doesn't quite understand yet. And I sort of have to realize, I'm like, he's still 10 years old. He's still a kid. He depends on me for everything. There's some things that he's independent on, but like the one funny thing I'll mention is that when we're in a restaurant and we're sitting and he like needs something, we always wait for the waiter to come back to us. They make their rounds, but Zach is like real quick to just get up and be like, hey, can I get a ginger ale or a salsa water? And like he'll follow our waitress all the way to the back to the kitchen, whatever, and he'll start asking for stuff. That he's good at. Making himself breakfast, not so good at, but we're working on it.
I mean, I think it's also like, like those are steps. I mean,
yeah.
Like those are, like steps. Like, I mean, it's funny because you say that about breakfast, because last night, Hunter's at his mom's, and I guess he's been learning how to do scrambled eggs. Oh. So last night, I guess he was hungry, and and I guess they had gone to a family event, but his stomach wasn't, stomach wasn't feeling so great, so he ate a little bit, but he was like, he couldn't really eat.
Okay.
When he got home, he was hungry, and so he made himself scrambled eggs. And then he was like, they were the best eggs I've ever had, But I'm sure in his mind, it was so rewarding, But it's like those things happen in stages, like little by little. Yeah. It's like,
I think that's such a victory for him, though. He must have felt like, he's like, I'm a G. He's like, give him a Top Chef, give me my hat.
Fucking chef coat. But it's funny because he was like, they were the best eggs I ever had in my life.
Yeah, I was like, bro, really?
But I'm sure on some level, it's like you said, it's like the fact that he made them, by himself, and like made them taste so much better.
To be honest, I thought you were gonna say like he burned them or something, and then like he was kind of like sad about it. But hearing that is so much better.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's trying to be a father and trying to teach someone else, and when you're sort of like, for me at least, when you're still sort of dealing with your own shit, it's hard, and it becomes very challenging, and like I said, sometimes it's very isolating, and I don't know, I really want to stress the point that feeling of isolation, I realize now, can happen very easily. It can happen to anybody, and it can happen in a blink of an eye without you really even realizing it. Because it's not like I'm like, oh, I feel sad, blah, 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 like, woe is me. It's just like one day you wake up and you're like, you feel like this weight is like this overwhelming weight on you.
Yeah.
And where it's like unsurmountable, or you almost like you can't, or it's like almost like something sitting on your chest, you can't even breathe.
Yeah. And a conversation between you and someone could be the difference of you feeling up and be like, you know what, I could get through this another day, and having that feeling where like, well, this is it, this is the day, this is I'm done with it, you know.
And that's, I mean, I think and when I think back to it, I'm like, I think a big reason why that, of course, stopped me, of course, like, having a son. But who knows? I mean, because the other dads I know, they had sons too, and they were very close with their children.
Yeah.
So who knows? Like, I mean, while that was having a son was a factor, you know, it got blurred. You know, it becomes hard to, like that, just at one point, well, for me at least, the fact that I think what the issue I had, you know, I can't say the issue, but the conversation I had with my son regarding, you know, my family or whatever.
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, for a long time he was sort of like my lifeline to, like, you know, because my lack of family, my lack of, like, you know, I mentioned my mom.
You're a single child too. Yeah.
Like, you know, like single father.
Yeah.
And just, you know, like, it's almost like I feel like I pour myself everything into him because he's sort of like on my level, all I have.
Yeah.
And when I felt that rejection, it felt like, oh my God, like it felt almost like a stab in the fucking heart.
Yeah. Yeah. I can imagine.
And I know it's not like, you know, I'm not blaming him. It's not his fault. It's not like something that I can talk, you know, it's not nothing. He didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
It's just the situation and the way it was. And when that happened, I feel like it made him not be such a huge factor in me not, like, and like sort of like preventing me from reaching that dark state.
Yeah. Did you, I mean, since then, how are you feeling? I guess, how are you feeling as of now, as of this morning, you know, with your relationship with Hunter?
I feel good. You know, strangely, the past couple weeks, he's been extremely affectionate. He's been expressing a lot more gratitude for things. I don't know if it's his maturity, if he's getting older. I mean, I feel like I try to. I mean, right now, before, you know, like I mentioned, he did Muay Thai for a long time, and he sort of, like, you know, moved away from that. And I was doing baseball, so we've been doing baseball for the past 7 months, and so I book private lessons for him. I book group classes for him, and they're all expensive. I mean, sometimes the private lessons, if it's him and, like, his friend to do it together with the coach, it's $60 a kid, you know, for a 1 hour session for each of them.
Oh,
you know?
wow.
So it's like
Okay.
and then if he goes to, like, these group classes, it's like $35-$40 for a 1 hour group class. So we're doing that twice a week sometimes. So it's like, you know, it could be $100 a week.
Yeah.
On top of all the other, you know.
Well, activities and stuff, and
Yeah.
you got going on.
And so, I mean, and I think I tell him, I try to stress to him that it's challenging, but if he's willing to do it, I tell him, I was like, if you want to put in the time, I'll find the money. I'll find a way to pay for it.
Yeah.
I was like, but if we're there, you got to be doing it. You have to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, no half-assing.
Yeah.
I'm like, because I'm not half-assing when I pay.
Yeah. That's true. There's no refunds on that.
I think he's been a lot more grateful, even about, even as something as, like, you know, he knows that I cook for him. Majority of the time I cook for him.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, thank you for making me this. And he's been showing more gratitude. And before, where maybe he took things for granted, maybe he's seeing it. So I feel in the past maybe month or so, you know, like maybe 3 weeks, I've been seeing a lot more. He's expressing a lot more gratitude, which makes me feel a lot better, and makes me feel good. 'Cause I'm like, oh, okay, he appreciates what I'm doing.
Of course, yeah.
And not like I need a fucking pat in the back or like,
Yeah,
you know, like he has to, like, you know,
A handwritten note, thank you.
yeah, exactly. But it feels good to be like to have that acknowledged.
Yeah. That's one thing I wish, or not I wish, that I need to do more is cook for him. Because one thing is, he doesn't like school lunch, and he tends not to eat. So the other, earlier this week, he almost like fainted in class. I guess he maybe dehydrated, but he didn't eat breakfast. And then the next day he felt the same way, and we got a call from there. So I was like, I really got to cook food for this guy. He's not eating.
Yeah.
So he'll skip breakfast, he'll skip lunch. Sometimes in after school they may have the same type of lunch, or maybe he'll skip it too, or he'll have one thing. But I was like, yo, that's not good for you. A growing kid, you know, going through puberty, malnourished. I'm like, how do I look? You know. But I have had those times where I do cook for him and I make something, from scratch, not me ordering from Uber Eats or leftover food. It was like, thank you, Daddy, for cooking. And I was like, I feel it.
Yeah.
I feel it.
I feel like also, Hunter hates school lunch too. I feel like he's telling me all the kids hate school lunch. Most of them don't like it. They all say it's gross. Which I feel like is a fucking waste. I'm like, well, the city's fucking wasting money.
Yeah.
Hold on 1 second.
So 1 sec. Pause.
And we're back.
And we're back from our
From our
show.
our commercial breaks.
For for water. I forget, honestly, I forgot where we left off, but just, I guess continuing the conversation of sort of that relationship with our kids. I think it's something that I love sort of, working on. And I think at the end of the day, I just want to have a relationship with my kid where we really, understand each other. But I think it's super important that I have to make sure I'm taking care of myself before I take care of him.
Yeah. I find that's very hard. I think for me, that's something I always challenge. I think, I'm sure for you also. I mean, I think you and I, and I see it. I mean, for you, I think you always prioritize your family first. And I think you I can see it because I see the same behavior in myself, that you tend to sort of put yourself at the bottom of the list of things that, like what your needs are. And I think it's noble. And I think it's on some level what you're sort of like, I can't say trained, but we are sort of trained to be that way. But I think it's also detrimental. I think it's also, I mean, I'm not comfortable putting myself first above everyone else, because for me, I know it's not realistic, and it's not like I'm such a fucking great self-sacrificing person. It's just not like, maybe it's just how I've been raised. It's hard for me to do that, but I do know that I have to spend some time working on myself, and I feel like the past couple months I've really been trying to work on myself and work on and also unpacking. Like you mentioned before about dealing. I think a lot of the I kind of took and I made a little mental note to kind of like loop back to it. You had mentioned before about dealing with your trauma, and I think I probably packed it away, and I dealt with it on some level enough to get me to the point where I can sort of survive or get through it. But I don't think I really unpacked it completely. Also, there are new things. I mentioned before there were new things that I've kind of began speaking about that I never really brought up before, just because out of shame, out of whatever. And all these things I'm trying to do them now, but it's hard. It leaves you very raw and very exposed, and leaves you in a really vulnerable mental state. Yeah. And when you have like all the other factors of life, all the other challenges of life, sometimes it can feel overwhelming. Yeah. But I think going back to what you're saying about prioritizing yourself, I see it in myself, I see it in you. But I realize now that there has to be some focus on us, or else who knows, if you always deprioritize yourself and you never make yourself and don't take care of yourself, I really feel like it will lead me personally back to that, or can lead me back to that dark place. Yeah. It's one of the most difficult to do, and I've gotten into the habit of sort of when something wrong happens or something upsets me, it's like, what, it's okay. It's okay. And I've been known to say that for certain situation. I think it's very easy for me to I was like, don't worry, it's all good. And sometimes it's good because there are things that are not as serious as they may be, or as that other people they see it as, they prioritize it differently than me. But I know that there's been times where I'm like, it's okay. But in my mind, I know I'm saying, what the fuck is going on? Like, this is really upsetting, and I should really like address it. But to me, I think even just getting angry or talking about it is sort of embarrassing, because I feel like, why am I feeling this? Why am I displaying this? And I think that's a struggle that I've dealt with probably since I was a teenager. I definitely am a people pleaser, and I think that's why I've had situations where it's just like everything's bottled up, and as soon as like something gets past the point where I can't really hold it anymore, like it bursts out. And I've had people tell me that, and people who've been mentors to me in the past be like, yo. I was like, yo, you got to talk about this. If something's angry, it's angry. You can't please everyone. You can't make everyone happy. It's just tough. I'm such as like I want everybody to to be cool, to be happy, and this and that. But you can't. It's unrealistic. Do you think that when you say that when something angers you or you're upset that you don't want to show that, do you feel afraid that I can't say not afraid, do you see it as a sign that you don't want to show kind of that vulnerability or weakness, or why don't you, or maybe you don't even know, do you know why you
to be honest, I don't know 100%, but I do know that I sometimes I don't feel comfortable in the way I'm going to show it. I think I want to put it out there that I'm like, yo, this is upsetting. This, this doesn't make me feel good. But I feel like because I've held it in so much in the past, I don't know how to like maintain that like sort of like flow. Like I really don't know how to express myself in that certain situation without blowing up. It's like you said before, it's like some certain situations don't call for that type of reaction. And since I don't know, like what I'm afraid is that it's just gonna go from 0 to 100 instead of from like 0 to 20 to 40, like gradually, and then like tone myself back, and I'm either gonna embarrass myself or I'm gonna get somebody else upset, and that's something I also don't want to do. So it's like this cycle.
I think you're right. It is a cycle. If you really think about it, and I'm thinking about it as you say it, and I'm kind of like almost like visualizing it. It's if you're holding in all this shit. And you're like, and you tend, you don't want to show it, so you sort of internalize it, or you sort of like put it in the corner. Yeah. After a while, that in itself kind of adds more and more and more to the point where you do blow up. So maybe it's better to kind of just deal with it at that moment and let it go than let it come inside, because after a while, like if it's one thing, 2 things, 3 things, 4 things, you get to a point where it's like 10 things you've been internalizing. Yeah. And now, when the 11th thing happens, or 11, something upsets you, now all the other shit comes pouring out with it. Yes. So it's like, and so it comes on and becomes this outpouring of emotion, anger, sadness, resentment, whatever it is. Yeah. As opposed to just responding to this one incident. Right.
Yeah. It's definitely like what is it called? Emotional maturity, like knowing how to like just handle that situation for what it is, and not with all the baggage of everything that happened to you before that. Yeah, I think that I find difficult to do. Sometimes I know that I've had experiences where I have dealt with situations like that, like at the moment, and I look back, an hour, a day later, and I'm like, okay, I did handle that correctly, and I was like, that's what I need to do going forward. But it's like in that moment, which it's just difficult to do, Yeah, I'm always afraid of like blowing up.
Do you think it's because you mentioned that you're being a people pleaser. Do you think that there's times you sacrifice yourself, and then that over time wears on you? So when things sort of happen, you're like, it's almost like a point where you're like, I've done all this shit, and it's still not enough, or it's still not whatever, or it's not turning out the way I want. And do you feel like that kind of comes with it as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's definitely it's just holding it in and not just not dealing with it at the moment. And like I said before, it's like I'm always afraid of just taking it to levels where I really shouldn't be. But I have to deal with situations like that. And I think I've been getting better with it, over time and stuff. And I think part of that is also me trying to be better and deal with my own mental health. But also, I feel like as you get older, you lose patience for certain things, and you don't want to have to deal with shit after. And I'm like, all right, I'm dealing with this now. Like I have to, I'm like, yo, I'm 37. I got to deal with this like right now. Like I'm not, I'm getting too old for this shit, as as people would say.
Yeah, it's hard. I think what you say, what you said before, really. Just so you know, I think from conversation, I kind of think about. I think sometimes it's easier to hear what other people say and to kind of like process my own shit. But yeah, I realize that that's probably a big thing. I have to deal with situations as they come, or I should, because chances are dealing with it at the moment with a more appropriate response is better than just keeping it in and then finally blowing up later. And I think that's probably the biggest hurdle I struggle with. Yeah. Because, for me at least, I asked you how you felt, because I feel like, for me at least, I feel a little embarrassed or a little ashamed if I have to say, this hurt me, or this hurt my feelings, or this made me sad. It's almost like, what are you, a little girl? What are you, a little bitch? You know,
Yeah.
and I don't say like little girl like to diminish girls. You know, it's like, you know, just that's kind of like the
typical
mindset.
phrase. Yeah,
the phrasing you hear, like that's kind of like, you know, what you hear when you're a kid.
yeah,
And it's tough, and I think it's something that I think a lot of men of our age, I mean, I think a little older than you, but that in general just struggle. Especially, I mean, not that we have a monopoly on you know, kind of like less than ideal childhoods. But I think amongst like Latino men, it's like, you know, I think in the Latin culture, it's a big thing about machismo, about you know, about like being a man, and that could be the same for around the world. I mean, you know, and I just speak from my own experience as a Latin man.
Yeah, yeah. And I see other people that are my age, and the way they sort of deal with things, you know, like with just their family, their spouses, their children, and I'm like, and there's key things that I pick up, especially from like our, you know, the guests that we've had here on the podcast, but also just people around me, and I'm like that's not the way. I was like, that's not the way I would speak to my own spouse, or that's not the way, you know, I want to speak to my, you know, my children. It keeps me, I think it keeps me in check when I see things like that, because I'm like, okay, I think, you know what, shit, maybe I'm doing a good job, you know, and it's good to see that. But I think you really have to surround yourself, or it's great to have people around you that have that sort of same mentality, to where, you know, they're what is it called, like not emotional, but sort of like you know, they're open to being vulnerable, right? And you don't have those sort of feelings where I was like, you know what, this guy's like, you know, this is like an army brat. I have to be, you know, I have to act like a man. I have to be tough around them.
Yeah.
But also be like, yo, have those real conversations where like, yo, that hurt me, or we struggled, we had a difficult time. That hearing that from other people on the podcast, it reinforces that I'm like, I'm not the only one going through this.
Yeah.
We're all going through some similar shit.
I think the hard part for me, at least, and maybe it is for you, is finding community in a way, because it's hard to connect with other men. Like there's times I've gone out with other dads, and some, I mean, I probably know several dozen other dads, but most of the conversations, most interactions are very superficial, or very like, you know, and they're not really meaningful. And personally, I really am not good at small talk. I feel awkward. I feel weird. It like physically makes me feel uncomfortable. And sometimes, I mean, who knows? I kind of joke like, you know, maybe I kind of joke more recently. I was like, maybe I have a little bit of autism. Like in certain situations, I say the wrong thing, or I say something that's not really appropriate for the conversation. You know, for that moment, or the audience. Or people that I'm around, and I'll say like some crazy shit, and I'll say as a joke. People are like sometimes a little shocked, or they'll say things I probably shouldn't say.
Nervous laugh.
Exactly. But I have like that social awkwardness, and it's easy. I'd rather have one meaningful conversation out of like 100 dads than like 100 trivial conversations. It doesn't feel good to me. But I think as men, it's hard to break that initial get past representative is what I'm going to say. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. I feel like after several small conversations like that, I feel fake. I feel like I'm just like I'm doing it because you're in the room, you're next to me, this and that. It's like I'm gonna totally the moment I walk away, I'm gonna forget this conversation.
Yeah,
like,
it means nothing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like empty calories, you know.
Yeah, and I walk away feeling like meh. Like it doesn't feel good.
I wasted my breath.
With some of the, I feel like probably bad saying this but with the majority of the dads at Hunter's baseball, I think a lot of it is very superficial. It's like, oh yeah, they talk about baseball, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, and maybe there's one or two dads that I've spoken to on a more of a deeper level, but even there, it's still a little, maybe I haven't built that rapport with them because they're sort of new. But it's very hard, I feel like, and that in itself. Which is not only I want to put the blame on other men. I feel like it's also on me because maybe I'm not initiating real conversations. I'm just kind of going with the flow, and I don't want I'm not personally showing them anyone past my representative.
Yeah, right. I feel like with a group of guys like that, it's like who's the first one to break? Like, is it just gonna be like just a regular chit chat and no one's saying anything meaningful? It's like, all right, who's the one that's going to be like, hey, you guys heard about, something, my kid has this and that. He's like, hey, you guys have ever dealt with something like that? Who's going to bring up the serious conversation, the serious, meaningful conversation? And I think within a group of guys like that, it's sort of like, well, I'm not going to be the first one. I'm not bringing that up.
But it might also be harder to do it in a group of guys. I feel like sometimes one-on-one is a little
True.
easier.
Yeah, expectations are definitely like lower, maybe. Yeah, that's interesting.
Because even now, I feel like now my representative is always like so present. Like even before we were recording before, I feel like I had to transition from like to talk about all this shit that we talk about. Because I feel like this is not how I normally talk in my day to day.
Yeah,
My day to day, I don't talk about most of this shit.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I have to like get to a point mentally where I can sort of be okay talking about it, and it doesn't feel like I don't feel uncomfortable. I mean, even there's a little bit of discomfort still, but I'm more okay talking about my feelings, my emotions, my struggles, as opposed to, the 99% of the time I'm out in the world. I'm not saying this shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, what's up, man? What's going on? What up, my guy? It's very superficial. It's more,
go Knicks.
And it's like, go Knicks.
Yeah, that
kind of shit. And I don't even watch fucking basketball. But of course, you feel like I have to have my representative there to on some level maybe protect me from whatever, like I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe that's survival instinct. Maybe you think maybe that's some sort of survival instinct. Yeah. Yeah, that's what, in a way to defend yourself. Actually, I like that. I sort of like. I've never thought about it in that way. Where it's like, you are defending your sort of vulnerableness. Yeah, I definitely wasn't thinking. Like before we started, and I was like, let's talk, and eventually like roll into it. But I was like, all right, I've been up for like an hour and a half. I'm like, I'm sort of thinking about breakfast. I'm thinking about what Zach is going to eat, what he's going to do, where he's going to be during the podcast, because he, before he shuts this thing down, and then be sort of to like emotionally, like what is it called? Emotionally available. I think that's sort of what I'm trying to set myself to, so that I can accept sort of your feelings, your thoughts, everything you're saying, and then you can reciprocate, or I can reciprocate
and share yours.
Yeah.
I go through the same process even before my therapy session, where if I normally have them during the day, maybe around lunchtime, but I know I have to like cut off whatever I'm doing if I have any calls or anything. I can't schedule anything right before. I need like 15-20 minutes in between to sort of
unwind
and transition into like the other person, like the other Pete. That can like that the more emotional, the more emotionally available, the more emotionally vulnerable Pete. And even like speaking myself in the third person is like such a dick move, right? But yeah, it's like, I need that little bit of time, because even if I don't, there's been times when I don't have it, and it was like what we're talking about. I was like, all right, I need a few minutes. I'm trying to switch. Yeah, it's like switch people, and also it's like switching a role. It's like for you, you wake up and you're thinking about Zach's breakfast, doing this, all your responsibilities, but now you have to transition to like Bryan the man, Bryan the person, Bryan the human being with happiness, with joy, with sadness, with grief, with all the everything that entails being being a person, being a human. And as opposed to this role that you have as like a father or a provider, or like the role you play at your company. It's like you have to transition, and I'm trying to give that person more time.
Prior to this conversation, I've never thought about the representative aspect, but leaving this conversation, I think I'll be more aware of it. And I think more aware of just taking care of that person, that persona, or I don't want to say persona, but I sort of like that part of my life where it is important to take care of myself,
Yeah. I feel very afraid. I feel like if I don't focus on or give that person some more time, that I feel afraid that I could roll back or fall back into that darkness. And now that I've like sort of went through it and come out of it, even like thinking about it, it scares me. I'm like, because it was like a really bad place.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, I'm like, I have to, I can't ignore that anymore. I have to give that person, that role, that part of me more time, or else it could happen.
Yeah. You need that foundation to be strong. And I think, given that quote unquote person enough time allows you to grow, to mature, be really ready for this world.
That's why one of the big things that I've really been giving a lot of thought and I really want to focus on are building community. And I think you and I have said, I think I really want to start with setting maybe one day a month or one day whatever. I mean, I know our schedule of like going out, trying to maybe get other dads to go out, and not and hopefully other dads that it's not just their representative showing up. It's like real, and I'm not saying every single conversation has to be overly emotional or whatever, but where people feel comfortable just being themselves and not feel they have to put a persona on.
Yeah, I think being realistic, if you let yourself be emotionally available, I think, and you get you have some real good conversations, between you, your dad, or maybe like a solid group of people. I think it's only a matter of time before you really start talking about real things, but you really have to sort of make yourself available. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be willing to, have this conversation. If we get a good group of dads that are willing to do that, I think we can have amazing conversations, And I think we can all just help each other around.
And I think also help each other's kids. I feel like there's other dads I know that could probably have a different impact on my son that I can't, because our dynamic.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Where I feel like I can say certain things, or this Hunter, and he gets very defensive.
Yeah.
Where someone else say the same exact thing, and he's like, okay.
Yeah, it's the same. It's the same thing with my brother-in-law. It was like Esteban would tell Zach to do something, and he's on it. He's doing chores, he's cleaning, he's helping this and that. God forbid I tell him. He's like wait, and he puts his finger up. He's like, oh, I don't want to do it. I don't want to brush my teeth. I don't want to take a shower. All these things that I struggle with, and all it takes is another dad figure, or another adult father figure. He's like, yo, I'm on it. And I'm like, yo, what's up? What's going on?
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have those people in your life. You can't. I think you can. First things first. I think you're a parent. Then maybe you're a friend. Or, I guess that dynamic changes, but you have to have some people that are not. They're not just like you. I think my brother-in-law is an amazing dad. I think he's an amazing person in general. He's a really good, person, a role model for him. I think guys in general, kids in general, need that.
Yeah.
They really need those people.
Well, I think it goes back to when our previous guest Jonathan, what he said was the importance of non-parental male role models, male role models in children's lives.
Yeah,
but I think that's the importance of coaches. I think that's why coaches. That's why sometimes kids excel at sports when they have the right coach.
Yes, yeah,
and the coach can connect with them in a way, and even there's even Hunter's batting coach. This guy Rob has been fucking amazing.
Yeah.
But he could be a little tough with him. Like, Hunter, yo, you looks, he'll be a little tough.
Yeah. And
push him, where if I say something even remotely similar, he's fucking having a meltdown. I can see his face like he's trying to hold in tears.
Do you ever get that feeling when the coach is talking tough to him, where you're like, yo, son, back up?
No,
you're just like, yo, get him.
I'm like, good. I'm like, if he needs it, he needs it.
Yeah.
Initially I felt like a little, when he first started doing sports or martial arts, I felt a little protective of that.
Yeah.
But then I had to I realized it, and I was like, oh no, he needs, someone has to let him know and push him, and then also when I see him respond to it, if I see him shutting down or and I feel like he has had coaches who, as a parent, I'm like, I don't really like this coach, or I don't like the way they handle things, because I think there's a balance you have to strike. You have to be tough with the kid and stern, but if you're always gritando and yelling, then it becomes fucking noise.
Yeah,
and they don't
yeah.
hear that shit. And all there are is like they just sort of like they'll do it, but they're sort of rolling their eyes.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
"All right, whatever." You know. But if you're stern and like, and there's this balance of being stern and like, and you're not just barking at them.
Yeah.
But you're stern, and once in a while you have to give them like, yo,
Gotta give them a push.
Yeah, a little
Yeah.
push. That makes a difference than if you're just always yelling and yelling and yelling and yelling. Because even as a parent, when you're yelling all the time, they don't
It's
listen.
just it becomes normal.
Yeah,
it's
and
normal.
they're desensitized, and it becomes noise. Like, they
Yeah.
just filter the shit out.
They're like, whatever.
Yeah. Whereas opposed, if you're more like, a little more stoic, or a little not stoic, but a little more tempered, and then all of a sudden you have a big response, all of a sudden like, oh shit,
Yeah.
or
They get
changing
it.
your tone, they're like,
Yeah.
oh no, and,
Yeah.
and it has more of an impact.
Okay. And you would say you've seen that with Hunter, with his coach and everything,
Yeah.
where he's like he has good responses to sort of like the pushing.
Yeah. I think definitely. I think with some of his coaches, I mean, I think Joel, who we had on the podcast,
Yeah.
yo, he fucking loves Joel. Like, he will walk through fire for that man. And you know what? To be honest, that in itself makes me so grateful and makes me love Joel as well.
Yeah.
Like the fact that this other person, because in the world, no one owes you anything. Like we're all,
True.
no one owes you shit.
Yeah.
And the fact that this guy, this other man took the time and emotional investment to connect with my son and help him excel, I'm eternally grateful.
Yeah.
I think Aziz, like another one of his coaches, from the old gym.
Yeah.
I think there's a coach now in baseball, Rob, who has been his batting coach.
Yeah.
And I showed you the video.
Yeah.
And even Rob
Kicking
is
ass.
like amazed. He's like a kid. He's like, Rob sent me a text. He's like, yo, this gives me all the confidence in the world as a coach that I took a kid who never played baseball before that's hitting the way he's hitting now. He's like, I have kids been playing me for I know for years that can't bat like this, but he's been with Rob since the beginning, consistently.
Yeah.
And
I love hearing that. I think for me it puts me in a state where I'm like, I feel like I have to sort of keep my eye on Zach if he's doing something, but if he's with somebody that I trust and I feel like I can push him in the right ways, I feel like I don't have to sort of be there worried. I can sort of let go, sit back and sort of just enjoy for what it is. If it's practice, if he's doing karate, if he's just running around, I put that trust in that role, in that figure, and he can take care of my own kid.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think it's an important part. But yeah. It's it's funny. I think we talk about our kids so much, and it becomes such a big part of our lives, and becomes such of our focus. It's great, and I love it. I realize I have to give myself some time too.
Yeah.
And something I'll tell you this now, and I'll tell you in private.
Yeah.
I hope that you give yourself more time, because I know the dad you are. I know the husband you are. I know you always, and I think you said to me how you've looked up to me, or you've learned from me. But no, bro, there's times I see you and I'm like, oh, Bryan is you're doing an amazing job, and I can see it, and I know what you do. But sometimes because of my own experience, I do wonder, is Bryan giving himself the time? I hope he's okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Because there's times, I think you think about, I know what you do. Your life is your son and your wife.
Yeah.
And of course, work, it's demanding.
Yeah.
But outside of that, those are your focus. And it's very rare that I hear you talk about anything for yourself.
Yeah. Oh, that's sort of the whole thing of keeping everything in, trying to just maintain everything and sort of maintain that status quo. But and what makes me laugh too sometimes is that you're like, yo, you guys are such you're a social butterfly, and I was like forced. But I feel like, and I love to spend time with family and friends like that, but man, there's some days where I'm just like, dude, I don't want to go to these parties back to back, and sometimes I just need a day for myself. I think this weekend was really a week where I was like, yo, I need to relax, because it's been, to me, personally, it's been a super long week, and I think I'm just emotionally drained. And I realized Friday that just passed, that I was burnt out. I was like, yo, I'm really, really just tired of everything. I'm I don't want to do nothing, and I'm just even waking up today, I was like, okay, we're gonna do this, because I always feel better at the end of the podcast than I do in the beginning, because it's a chance for me to listen, it's a chance for me to talk and just get into get into the emotion of things, which I haven't been able to sort of unpack or unwind, the week or two prior. But even just getting to this state is sometimes difficult. But I got to give myself that time, and that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. It's tough, but I do appreciate your kind words, Pete. It's
no.
I've looked to you as someone that's strong, because I see you as stern. You have rules. You've said everything with Hunter. I've always wanted to do that with Zach, and Zach, just like I'm like, yo, I'm not strong. I was like, I'm not built like that. I just can't. But I think I've picked up on a lot of things from you that have helped me, and I'm like, you know what, it's just a few tiny things that all I need is sometimes to kind of like turn a situation around or help me deal with a particular situation. And I appreciate that.
And vice versa. I think for me, you need that different perspective, because for me, I'm more structured and very rigid, but I realize now that I have to be a little, like, it might be better for me to kind of like tone that down a little bit. Because while I want to push him, but I don't want to stand in his way. I don't want to
same.
I don't want to get in his way from being so rigid. But I look to you because I think you're more like easygoing and relaxed, and you have more patience. I feel like you have more patience than I do, and I feel like those are things that I see you, and I'm like, oh yeah, Bryan is a really patient guy. I was like, I have to start being more patient with Hunter and being a little more. So I think it's a mutually beneficial friendship, and I'm very grateful for it.
Likewise. Thanks, man.
Oh, thank you.
If I could reach you, I'd give you a dap, but I can't. I was like, I'm going to spill the water bottle, hit the mic.
But yeah, something else that I realized, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it before, is something I learned more recently about personality types. Like, I always thought I was more introverted, and because I feel like when I'm in public or whatever, even in social situations, like I see the way you and Evelyn are in social situations, and you guys can you are like social butterfly, And for me, it's harder for me to float around or talk to that many people when I'm like outside or in public, because I feel like my social anxiety, I feel like my awkwardness, that I feel kind of like hinders that. But I read something that your personality type is not how you are in public. It's actually how you are when you want to decompress, when you feel like, when you want to relax. Do you prefer doing that alone, or do you prefer doing it with others? And for me, I realize while in public, I'm a little more introverted and quieter and shy. Yeah. But at the end of the night, or when I want to decompress or relax, I feel more at peace if someone is there. Not necessarily talking, not necessarily interacting, but if I'm with someone else, that's where it helps me feel more relaxed. And that's so I realize that's more of an extroverted personality type. Yeah. And people who tend to, and who prefer to be alone when they decompress or need their solitude are more introverted. And I feel like it sounds like to me, we're kind of like opposite, where on the outside world, you and Evelyn, because I remember I always joked that you and Evelyn took pictures, at my wedding with everyone. I was like, yo, like my second cousin or whatever. It's like, it comes up on my Chromecast. Yeah. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, yo, these guys would talk to everybody. But I know in public, that's not, I'm shyer and I'm less social. But I prefer when I'm alone to be around someone else. And to me, it sounds like the opposite for you.
Yeah, no, for me, it's like, I'm out there, and I think I push myself to be more social, because that's the way Evelyn is. And I feel like, and it's funny because in the beginning it was like, people would always ask me, or we would go somewhere, and I think people just really got used to me, Evelyn's family specifically, that if Evelyn would go somewhere by herself, the first thing they would say is, where's Bryan? So she made a joke about that for years, because it was like, oh, my name is Evelyn, where's Bryan? That's her actual for a name. And it's funny because it's like, I was like, I didn't see that with Evelyn, but then maybe in recent years, I'm seeing it now where it's like people are doing the same thing. But dude, I get home and I'm just like, I want to be like, I can decompress with Evelyn sometimes, but sometimes I want to just be by myself and be like, what did I do? I was like, that was pretty cool. I made someone laugh. That made me feel good. I was like, did I enjoy this party? And I'm sitting back and I'm like, and I'm asking myself all these questions, sort of like, doing my own therapy session. And I'm like, do I want to do that again? Was I present for people? Sometimes, for the most part, I am. There's been times where I go to a party and I'm like, I'm like, I really don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And I'm just, but and I kind of like, hey, we'll have small talk, like we do, and I'll appear like sort of like there, but I'm like my mind is like back home, just like relaxing, like I've had enough of it. You know? That's one of those things where it's like my social battery, where I feel like as I get older, my social battery is like wear and tear. It's like
yeah.
So
I think that's the balance. I feel like I wonder if having those social engagements, but if they're more meaningful, because I feel like a lot of those times you have very top level superficial conversations, and that's hard. I mean, do you find that hard? Or what would you prefer? You prefer those conversations, or do you find it harder to like connect with people, or do you prefer just keeping it light when you're out?
No, I mean, sometimes I prefer to be light. The meaningful conversations, I think, depending on who I'm with, and there's some people I can easily have those conversations with. I don't know. I feel like I like to have a balance of both. Like I want to be social. I want to be social out there so that I know sort of how to like navigate when I'm in a group of people that I really don't know. I think the conversations, having meaningful conversations with just select number of people helps me get to that next level where I'm like, okay, you know what? I can speak more to a crowd. And I mean, I hate public speaking. It's not like something I do. But I would feel more comfortable being out there and talking to someone that I don't know, and maybe starting the conversation. But I think it's like it's a graduation of all those things. It's like I'm by myself. I'm with someone I really care about, someone that means a lot to me, and then from there on, I can move to speaking with other people. Because I think in general, people find me interesting, or people enjoy having me around, and that's I feel like that's important to me. I don't ever want to feel like a nuisance to anyone, or I just want I want people to be like, you know what, we can have a conversation with Bryan. Let's invite him in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I love that sort of offering to myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's. Yeah. I feel like it's a lot. I feel like
but there's the days where a conversation like this is like we're having is like all I need, and I'm good for the day. Yeah, I'm like, I'm set. Like my emotions are in check. I've sort of recalibrated. I've rebalanced myself. I'm sure I'll get most of that throughout the rest of this week. I think it's going to be slow at work. So I'll feel better. I think I'll try to like get my rest. I'll try to eat healthier. I think even like my job itself has its peak where I'm all out of sorts, and I think. It's like, what do you do in those situations? Do you check do you get a new job? Do you check yourself? Is that an option? But navigating that is a sort of part of that journey.
It is. I think it's a struggle. I think we have to make an effort to, and I think this is one of the things that I actually really bring me joy. But I realize because it's something for me. Like this podcast, even talking with you, like this is my thing. I don't have to do this for my son. I don't have to do this for my significant other. It's something that is just for me, and it makes me feel good. And this is why I almost like, like when I know we're going to record, I'm like, all right. And I'm like really trying not to like miss or, make sure it happens, because I'm like, this is for me and it makes me happy. And I think that I have to, and maybe you too, have to start prioritizing things for ourselves. Yeah. And not that's going to supersede our responsibilities, but that, we need to have our own thing, because my goal is to ultimately be like a well-rounded person, not just one thing. I want to be a great father. I'm trying to be. I think I'm a mediocre father. I want to be a great partner. I think I'm okay. I think I'm loving, but I have my issues I have to deal with. I want to be, but also I want to be a decent, good man. And and that extends past just being a father or being a husband or a partner or whatever. It also means being okay and being
good to yourself.
Exactly. Yeah. Good to yourself. Exactly. Yeah. I couldn't say it anymore.
I was like, treat yourself well. Like, look in the mirror and be like, what have you done for yourself lately? I I was like, you know, I mean, people say, you know, that they hate, you know, go out there for a walk. I don't know, you know, get a spa day and stuff like. And I think, you know, those things are like those physical things are great and they benefit you, but you also need to make sure you take care of yourself emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like that's sort of like the core. It's like emotional, physical, and all those other outside connections are affected by sort of like your core, your emotional state, your emotional being.
But I mean, I want to say again and express my gratitude. Like, thank you so much for being an amazing friend, an amazing partner on this podcast journey, and just being a good,
thank you, man,
positive role model in my life for me and my kid. And yeah, I think I love you, and I've really. I know, like, we're coming to the end of our sort of first season of the podcast, but it's something that I'm like really proud of, and it's probably been one of the most life-changing things endeavors I've ever done.
That's amazing. I love you too, Pete, man, and this has been such an awesome journey, and I'm glad we're able to do this, even when it is tough to get all this set up, or for you to come into the city and do this, and you know, knock it out early and get guests over. But this has been amazing. I appreciate your friendship in the almost 20 years.
I know
it's been almost, right?
That's crazy.
I can't say that for a lot of people, to be honest. You know,
me too.
I'm like, I've known Pete for a long time.
We've been through a lot together.
Yeah, seriously, man.
A lot of stages of life.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Love, life, I mean, everything. And look where we are here. 80 years later. No. Yeah, like, you don't realize it's like, you know, that the time flies and time passes. You're like, yo, it's been so many years. And like, look at all the stuff we've gone through. Time really does, you know. And I don't want to I don't want to take time for granted as well. Yeah. Absolutely. So absolutely. All right, my guy. I think we'll wrap it up. It's been a pleasure. For those that are listening out there, you know, reach out to those you love, reach out to those who know, you know, a few words, do what you can for your people. But, you know, I think most important, take care of yourself. Do whatever you can to get right. But, you know, reach out to someone, talk to someone. I think it'll benefit you. It'll benefit others that may need reaching out. You know, be kind to each other. Be cool. Exactly. I couldn't say it any better. And remember, you're not alone. You are not alone. Yep. All right. Yep. Love you all. Thank you for listening. Yep. Love to the listeners. And we out. Peace.